Looks like the attendees list has slowed down a little bit, so I think it's time to get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Spring Employer Advisory Committee meeting. I am Nicole Snyder, and co-hosting with me today is Megan Wallach. We are the, what are we? Oh my gosh, we're the Assistant Directors for Employer Services. Just to clarify, this meeting is for CalSTRS employers and our reporting partners. If you are a member or anybody else than our employer reporting partners, this content in this meeting is really not geared towards you, but that's okay. If you want to visit calstrs.com and check out our client advisory committee for information and updates on our membership groups, or contact us in any other available oh my gosh, I can't speak right now. The available options on CalSTRS.com. That'll probably be a better place for you to get the information that you're seeking. Some housekeeping items. Do we have the housekeeping slide, Jonathan? Yeah, I didn't think we did. Okay, so that's okay, but some housekeeping items. This is in webinar format. And if you are looking for any of the information that we're going to go over today, you can go to calstrs.com/employer advisory committee, and all of the agenda items and some slides will be up available for you to see there. This webinar format, we do not have the chat enabled. So if you do have a question at any time during the presentations, please feel free to raise your virtual hand. When we're able to take questions, we'll actually ask you to, we'll invite you to unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question, and we'll go from there. We may need to take some questions offline, but in interest of time, but we'll try and get through as much as we can today. We do have a pretty packed agenda. But otherwise, if you do have questions that you are unable to ask in this moment or in the meeting, please feel free to email advisorycommittee@calstrs.com, and we'll make sure to follow up with you. So with that, let's get started on the agenda. So as you can see, we're going to kind of go over a little bit of everything. Joycelyn will have some updates on legislation, and we'll go into some new file format and training stuff. But first, next slide, please, Jonathan. We just kind of wanted to remind everyone of some latest developments within CalSTRS, just in case you hadn't seen. But we've had a couple of circulars and directives be posted on the Secure Employer website. Obviously, the first one there is the Circular 2601. It's around the escalation process for delinquent contribution reporting. And we had a directive 2604 that was posted in April, and it's around the post-retirement earnings limits. So if you haven't had opportunity to go check those out yet, they're out there on calstrs.com/employer, I believe, is the path to get to those, to the circulars and directives. Another development was the regulations for our credible compensation simplification, AB 1997, and the new file format regulations were approved. So they were approved in April. So you're going to hear some more about that in a couple more of these presentations. And then we do have some updated release notes available also on employersupport.calstrs.com. And that's for updates to the Secure Employer website. So by all means, please go there, read up on all of the updates that have happened. And then, as always, employers can resume uploading member documents. And so that's not as always, that's a new thing. Sorry. Yeah. So I know that was an issue in the past, that we were having some sticking points with employers uploading member documents, but that appears to have been, we have fixed that. So you can start uploading as you need to. I see there's already a question. Arlene Hernandez, do you have a question? Go ahead and unmute yourself. I can't hear you. Let's see if I can do it. Okay,
there we go. I was just giving the option. Sorry, okay. So thank you, Nicole. So I just wanted to confirm, we actually had been uploading quite a few documents through the new SO platform, and we're receiving a bunch of notifications that were kicking back. So with this latest notification that was on the SO platform as of, I think, yesterday, is this now the new process that kind of ties into the new job aid for uploading these documents?
Yes, we're having some problems with the notifications, we believe, though. So the documents are uploading correctly on our end, but it looks like in a couple instances when an employer uploaded a document to the wrong account and our staff voided it, that the communication that is going back to the employer might be blank. So we've asked our staff to contact the employer via email or secure message to let them know if there's a problem with the document they uploaded. We're still working out kind of the details of why that's triggering, if it was just a one-off with the timing for that particular employer, or if there's a general issue with the communication that goes back to you. But
Okay.
the PM itself, sorry, the workflow itself is working. So documents that you submit to the correct file and that go through, that should be working correctly.
So we should have, though, a follow-up for anything that is deleted for any reason, because those notifications are still coming in, you know.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what's going on there. It's hard on our end to see where it's what the hiccup is, to know how to put in the fix for it. But in the meantime, if there is an issue with your document, then our staff should be following up with you to let you know what you need to do to get the correct document on file.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arlene. Okay, with that, those were just some of the quick and dirty updates from the last time we've spoke with you guys. So next up, or should I say first up, is Joycelyn. She's going to give us some legislative updates. Take it away, Joycelyn.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joycelyn Martinez-Wade, Director of Governmental Relations. And so I'm going to start with bills that are around in 2026. I say around because the first two are two-year bills, so they come from 2025 and have made it to the Senate early. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'll pause for questions at various points. So AB 65. So we've talked about this before. The board has a support position on this bill. It's up to 14 weeks of pregnancy leave for educators. And wanted to let folks know the May revise of the governor's budget was presented last Thursday. And in the May revise, it does say that there is a proposal for up to 14 weeks of pregnancy leave. And it speaks to having the price tag for that covered through the discretionary COLA that was provided for in the May revise. And so just an update there. I'm not sure if AB 65 will be the vehicle that will move in, or if it will be added to a different trailer bill or budget bill. But the governor has put some money behind AB 65. AB 1439, again, it's about a report on excluding us from California development projects that don't have certain labor standards protections. So we're seeing if that moves forward as Senate committees start to meet in June. And I got ahead of myself. I was going to say September. I was ready for session to be over. But in June, the next 2 weeks of May are going to be floor session only, or budget committees going over the May revise. So I think that we'll see the bills that do move to the Senate, or the two at the top there that are already there, we'll see them get scheduled for hearings in June. And I'll move to these next two bills. Are two bills that we are taking to the board in May. The regular meeting of the May board meeting is on May 28th, so Thursday next week. And I'll be asking for the board to take position on AB 1619 and AB 2417. AB 1619 increases a board member per diem for CalSTRS, CalPERS, and 37 county board members. And so from $100 to $320. It's been a long time. I think it's 1982 was the last time it was raised. So the staff recommendation for that is a neutral position. I think board items will be posted tomorrow, but definitely this week. So if you want to check out the analysis on that, it will be posted on our Teachers Retirement Board meeting page. AB 2417, probably a little bit more relevant for the community college employers in the room. Oops, I'm seeing another screen come up. Okay, there we go. So this is about part-time community college faculty, and the bill requires community college employers to offer Social Security to them. Not all community college employers do that right now, so that's a requirement in the bill. And where it connects to CalSTRS is that it requires CalSTRS and CalPERS to provide materials or links to materials about different benefits that are provided to community college part-time faculty. So that, of course, defined benefit program is where we come in, and the cash balance benefit program, if the employer offers it. We're not the experts in Social Security, so we're trying to make sure that if there's supposed to be any detail on that, that's the Social Security experts are the one that are describing those benefits. So that bill, again, going to the board, and the staff recommendation on that is neutral at this point in time. There was just a set of amendments, so we'll be checking on those and making sure that the aim is still pretty much in line with what I just mentioned. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Let's see, and I will move through the three of these and then I'll pause for questions. So AB 2519 is Assemblymember McKinner's bill to follow up on AB 1997, which already got mentioned today, our credible compensation simplification bill. And so it is amending the definition of position subject to membership to deal with some concerns that she wanted to address regarding how the charter school employees fit into the definition of position subject to membership. So that's out there now. It's moved to the Senate. And again, like I was saying, should be heard in June. And we're keeping an eye on that one. AB 2780 is our housekeeping bill, our sponsored housekeeping bill, and that has also moved to the Senate. And I've taken up your time before going through the provisions. So again, our analysis of that is up on our legislation page already if you want to look through the details. And then last but not least, SB 1319. This bill has to do with the California Public Records Act and alternative investments. And I just want to give you a few details on this bill, because what it would have done was add to the information that would be disclosable under the Public Records Act related to the private market space for our investments. And it also, with the crossover with another bill that came around 10 years ago, it would require that information to be reported. And the reason I want to mention it to you is because the types of information that it was asking for is something that we felt, and if you've seen CalPERS had an analysis posted as well, would really have restricted our ability to invest in the private market space. And so we would have lost out on top tier partners, and private equity for us is a top performing asset class. And so our returns we were estimating would have gone down. And so and this will be in an analysis that'll get posted as well on the board page coming up. But I wanted to, where it ties in with you, I want to just let you know what the implications could be is that our investments team estimated that it would likely cause us to lose out on 0.5% of a return in investments. So down from 7% to 6.5%, which in turn would have led to a staff recommendation to reduce the investment return assumption. And what that does is that it actually increases our unfunded actuarial obligation. And we would have seen a need to increase state contributions. And that's on the general fund side, but it just, wanted to make mention of that because it's always difficult when contributions go up. And so we would have been looking for an additional $2.6 billion per year from the state. Because of the way the funding plan works, we wouldn't have seen a change to employer contribution rates, but that's still a big impact on the general fund. And then for our 2% at 62 members, because their contribution rate is based on half the normal cost, we would have seen their 10.205% contribution rate go up by 1.5%, which is about $1,000 per member per year in additional contributions. And so this bill was going to be presented on May 28th with the staff recommendation of oppose. It did get held on the Senate Appropriations Committee suspense file, so it's not moving forward this year. But I just want people to be aware of kind of in this space, if the less we're able to diversify, the more restrictions that are put on us, we can't minimize those risks as we're constitutionally required to do so. And it may, we won't be able to maximize returns then, and it could lead to some of these implications. So just wanted to put that out there. But I can pause now for questions on any of these bills or others that you've thought of that I didn't. I'm not seeing any hands, so I'll go to the next slide. We can always come back. Just to remind folks, 2024 legislation, I can't believe it's already been 2 years, but we had AB 1997, third mention of the credible compensation simplification bill. And just want to remind folks that'll be effective July 1st, 2027. And I know you're going to get a lot more into the new file format and payroll reporting and things like that, but that is training on that for AB 1997. Information on that training will be coming to you soon. So stay tuned for that. Next slide, please. And then just a reminder, you saw that the post-retirement earnings limits directive, employer directive is posted. You'll notice in that the annual post-retirement earnings limit for service retirement goes down on July 1st, 2026. So this bill is the bill that increased it. SB 765 increased the amount, and it was a bill that was in place for 2 years. So it sunsets on June 30th. So it's part of why you'll see that. And I just want people to be aware because there'll be a shift again in the separation from service requirement and how it gets applied for, and that dollar amount of the annual earnings limit on the service retirement side. And so just be aware and be ready for that. Just again, bring attention to it. Next slide, please. And then I'm going to move on to the regulatory update, but let me know if there's any questions on those implementation efforts that are just ongoing or for awareness. Okay, great. The regulations, this got mentioned too. So again, the credible compensation simplification regulations connected to AB 1997 were approved by the Office of Administrative Law in April. Just so folks know, they get codified as of July 1st, 2026, but they don't go into effect until July 1st, 2027, when the bill AB 1997 does as well. And these are the regulations that have the new file format changes in them. And again, technically effective July 1st, 2027. And then the other set of regulations we have is the updates to the administrative remedy regulations connected to AB 1667. This is the appeals process and audits and appeals process. And we did submit those to the Office of Administrative Law in March. And they had a few areas, just a few, where they thought some clarifications would be helpful. And they're pretty straightforward, so nothing big to change, but we do need to change them. And they were recommending additional 15-day comment period. And with the timing of the regs, we needed to have the whole process done by July 11th, 2026. And because of the way our board meetings fall, we weren't going to be able to complete the whole process when we go to them and get their permission to post for the comment period and then have their approval. We weren't going to be able to do that by July 11th because they have their meeting next week and then they won't be meeting again until September. And so what we're going to be doing is restarting the process, just so everyone knows, in September with those clarifications in place. And so just be prepared for that. If you paid attention to that regulatory package, it'll just be those few changes that the Office of Administrative Law suggested to us, nothing substantive, and we'll be moving through with that in the fall and winter. So any questions on the regulations? Great. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Joycelyn. Appreciate it. Next up is Dan Demalier, and you know, this is going to be the good stuff. This is new file format. Here we go. Next slide, please. Thanks.
What an intro. Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Dan Demalier, as Nicole said, with the Employer Readiness team, and I'm going to discuss new file format and things to come. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just quick objectives. I'm going to explain the new file format background, which there was some already. And we're going to review the updated NFF implementation timeline, and then we're going to identify implementation resources for new file format. Next slide, please. All right, so we'll read all this for you as we spoke about this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but officially mandated a new file format for California employers to report member data to CalSTRS, and this was done through the California Code of Regulations. The change was necessary for several reasons. One, system modernization. The old file formats like the F496 and MR87 were tied to aging technology, and with our implementation of our new system, this is something that we thought would be impactful for all of us. Accuracy and compliance, we standardized the file format to reduce manual reporting errors, to increase that accuracy for our members. And then audit mitigation, so it gives a clear reporting that helps prevent common audit findings. Next slide, please. So the mandatory use of new file format was postponed from 2025 to July 1, 2027 to accommodate the requirements of the Assembly Bill AB 1997. It's also known as the Credible Compensation Simplification Bill. AB 1997 was signed into law September 2024. And then it restructures how CalSTRS defines and reports educator pay to reduce administrative errors and benefit overpayments. Excellent, thank you. So here's a brief timeline. I know there's kind of a lot going on here, so I'll start top to bottom, left to right. So the employer support portal, which we'll talk about a little later, has some NFF toolkits on there, job aids, system updates, and transition planning and preparation that's already on there right now. So you can go look at that at your leisure. We'll be having virtual visits coming shortly. So after this meeting here, we'll be posting our webinars for the NFF kickoff webinars. There'll be 2 of them at the beginning of June, and then we'll have a few other webinars throughout the process, and then virtual visits as needed with the employer readiness team upon request from employers or reporting partners. And then our testing and validation period is really going to start July 1st, 2026. So just around the corner. It will give us a full year of testing before implementation of new file format in July 1, 2027. In which point we're going to implement system updates, identify test scenarios, and obtain vendor support. So we'll also be working with vendors directly. So those of you who are supported by them, we'll be helping them out in the next couple of months as well. We're going to ask to upload monthly production-like test files in the employer readiness environment, or ERE as you may know it. And then coming in April 2027, we'll be preparing for the transition, and we'll be implementing process updates. COEs will coordinate and support with their districts, and we're going to accomplish and report readiness success indicators internally and externally. A couple of other key dates on here is the completion of the final file validation, which will be July 1st, as mentioned. And then the first July data with NFF information will be due in August, as usual, but we'll probably start getting some production files from you guys starting in August once July is concluded. All right, so as I mentioned, there'll be a kickoff coming up the first week of June. We're going to be having 2 sessions, and it's really for report sources, so COEs, some districts, and then we're going to also send out invites directly to you from the employer readiness team. We will then record it and post on the employer support portal thereafter, shortly after we conclude both of them. And we'll be meeting with vendors, as I mentioned in that timeline, between June and July of this coming summer. And then we'll also be holding virtual report source visits as requested. So if you'd like one, reach out to Employer Readiness and we can schedule that with you. But look forward for those emails and those webinar links that'll be up on the Employer Support Portal after this meeting. Next slide. And speaking of Employer Support Portal, here's what it looks like. So on the top left, as you see, we have Secure Employer website. That's our production environment that you use today. There's the Employer Learning Center, which is where you can get your CBTs in there. And then we have the employer readiness environment. That's our non-production. So that's what we'll be testing NFF in come July of this year through the end of June next year. The message boards are same as usual. So we try to duplicate, especially when we're talking about these sort of things, but we'll post on the message board and the ESP as well on SO to make sure everybody sees those messages we put up. And then we have, as you see here, the third one down in the tools and resources, we have new file format job aids, which is where you can access NFF support resources. Next slide, please. And when you expand that, this is what it looks like. So as you can see here, we have contribution file business rule validation, a crosswalk on there, and then the file specification, with which many of you have been asking about as well. So that's all currently on the Employer Support Portal. You can go take a look at that and download it as a PDF. All right, and I will pause here for any questions that you may have.
You do have a couple questions in the chat. First, we have Ramona. You can get Ramona an invitation to unmute. I don't see that we sent that yet to you, Ramona, because it'll look a little different on mine. There we go. So you should see it now.
Okay.
There you are.
So I had a question regarding the timeline, specifically for the June file that's going to be submitted in July. So we're still going to be submitting that information with the F496 file, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Sorry, I should have specified a little bit more. So the first new file format file will be July, the July file.
Okay. And if there are entries that for some reason they did not get reported, so they were taken off the file, and now they're being placed after that that June file, so maybe they're being put back on the July file because there was something wrong with it and it couldn't be reported. Do we need to have those additional data elements?
Yeah, so it depends. We'll have some further conversations about that with our webinars and readiness visits. But basically, if you have, now there's no longer monthly or supplementals, right? So if you have a June file, you can do as many June files as you want, or just do the transactions at that time. And we're going to be working with you specifically because in order to switch over to new file format, we internally have to switch you over, and it's by employer. So at your county level, if you're completed for 2027, June 2027, and then you say, okay, we're ready to switch to new file format, then we would switch you to new file format. And if you have lines that you need to add on there for the prior fiscal year, then it would be the new file format at that time. But there'll be a window of time. So if you have like a large file that you normally put in for June and you had to take some lines off, but you weren't ready to switch to new file format yet, you'd still be able to do that subsequently with a smaller file or just through those transactions. But we can work with you on a case-by-case basis to help kind of shepherd through that process. And then there will be a cutoff date at some point for everybody that will switch to new file format.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Arlene Hernandez.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I just have a quick question. I think it kind of goes back to maybe your first or second slide. So with these old file, I guess, file format, coding. So basically the way we used to report in the old file formatting where, for example, the reporting of limited term special pay for non-members, where on the old file, we used to code them with a 71.6. My understanding is that we've had quite a few lines that we've had to kind of not add onto the file because the new system now, basically, you're not supposed to add them on there. And our concern is when these forms come through for reconciliation from STRS for, DBCB members, we used to be able to add these on the F496 file, which we can no longer do. So what information are we going to get as districts to have so that, we no longer have to add these lines on there? Is there a directive? Is there some sort of communication that's going to be sent out?
I'm not sure if I have that offhand, but maybe we can follow up on that, unless anybody that's on has the answer to that right now. We can follow up with you, Arlene.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next is Renee, and you should have your unmute there, Renee.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I had a suggestion. It's very difficult for us to decipher if we're in your test environment or your production environment. And if we're going back and forth, it can be confusing. So is there a way that in your test environment you can put in there or have a banner of some sort that says test if we're going to be testing files and stuff?
Yeah, we can take that back, Renee. It's something that we have talked about in the past, so I can check in with my team and see what kind of options we have for that. We can follow up.
And I just have another comment, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I don't know if others will agree. It has been very challenging with the new STRS system. And on top of trying to test a new file format, I just don't have the time. Like, is there any wiggle room for pushing back some of that, the new file format at all? Because a year is just gonna be here before we know it.
Yeah, totally understand. So as of right now, the answer to that one is no. It's going to be July 1st, 2027 is the hard date for that. So we're going to do our best to try to work with you. We'll be doing the same thing internally, testing and trying to walk all of our employers through that. I know it is a short window. We wanted to make sure we maximize that with giving a full year of testing. And then we'll reiterate it at the kickoff webinar, but I know you're very busy right now, but we want to see whatever time you guys do have to get in early and often for testing. So that's the goal. We'll try to do everything we can to help alleviate that as much as possible and help you guys get through that. But as of July 1st of this year, we'll start the testing, and then July 1st of next year is when it will implement.
I'm just concerned because if STRS customer service and employer help is already inundated with the current issues, how are you guys going to handle when it comes to new file format issues, and we're unable to post a file or there's issues? Because all that is very time sensitive, as we know, because P&I is added to it. I mean, I have employer help inquiries that have been sitting here for months that have still not been resolved. And we're taking lines off the files and trying to add them on the next file. And I have some lines that have been pending for months. So I can only imagine on your guys' end as well, when you're doing the new file format and we're trying to post, it's just compounding the issues that we're already experiencing now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to do everything we can to kind of prioritize and triage things that come up. And that's why hopefully when we get into the testing, we will find those things right away so that we can start working on them earlier before the final implementation of new file format. I totally understand your concern and where you're coming from. We're feeling it as well. But the hope is, as time goes on, some of those past things will be alleviated, and then the new things that come up will be a little bit more nimble and agile to be able to address them in real time, and then make that deadline for 2027. But appreciate the concern.
All right, next we have James Elkins. You should see an unmute there when you're ready.
Yeah, I was just curious with the test environment that's up on the ESP site, is that staying updated with the actual website? Because if it is, like if the test environment is staying up, that should help with Renee's issue on finding problems, because that would then, anything that's going to happen with the new file format problems are going to show themselves right away. I think part of her concern is how much testing we did in the initial process of this. And then once the go live hit, it seemed like there was a multitude of additional problems that showed themselves. So as long as the test environment is staying up to date currently with any enhancements or modifications that are going through, if we're submitting a file and it airs out, it's going to be the same if it was production, the same as if it goes through clean, it would be the same production.
Yeah, and thank you, James. That is the goal. So the employee readiness environment will be up and it will be regularly refreshed, and the new code fixes will go in there. We're kind of working on that with our release team to make it as easy as possible for employers, so that when you're going in and doing enrollments or you have a file that you're working on, our hope is that we can keep all that in there and then just refresh the data in the background with the most recent data from production. So it should be as close to real time as possible on a month-to-month basis, so that we can test all the fixes, all the data that's in there. And then, as I mentioned, hopefully early and often, our employer partners can get in there so we can find any bugs that do come up and then address them as soon as possible.
All right, next we have Evelyn George.
Hi, I have a question. Has anything changed to allow employers to send data via outbound files electronically like CalPERS? Or are these files, when we're putting massive amounts of data, we're at LAUSD, so when we're putting in this large amounts of data of new enrollments, so that it's not manual anymore?
Oh, so for enrollments, like specifically?
Just in general, so like CalPERS, we can send weekly data transmission files, right, that update the the actions, that update leaves, that update records, it updates everything. But will CalSTRS have something, an option that's similar?
Oh, so we have an employment file that I think sounds like what you're talking about. And you should be able to do those kind of transactions on there. But if
Is
you
it
want,
where it's manual, or is it where we can actually send like data files,
yeah, it would be on a file.
interfaced file, data file?
Yeah, if I'm understanding correctly, it would be via file that you upload, similarly to like that you do an F496 vid, but it's a different type of file.
So if I can clarify, Dan, so we have the MR87 file today that will let you do enrollments in bulk, and you can send those as you need to. The other employment transactions, so your sick leave transactions, your leave of absence, those things, contact information changes, those will be available on the employment file when we move to the new file format. So sick leave and all those things that you're having to do as individual online transactions today, when we go to the new file format, you'll have an employment file where you'll be able to do that in bulk. Today, you can only do it for the enrollment transactions using the MR87 file.
I see. Okay. And that's just like via an upload, like Excel uploading, or it's where CalSTRS information will be able to interface with LAUSD and accept those data files?
It's a file upload. So it would
It's
be, yeah, we don't have like an interface with your system.
And is that in the plans anywhere to be able to have employers interface those files, or is it always going to just remain that way via like an Excel upload?
I think our long-term intent is it to be the Excel upload. I don't know that the system we procured can do an interface. That's not something I've ever heard of, but Dan, I don't know if you have more information on that.
No, you're correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the plan long term.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, Dan, I'm going to let you off the hook for a minute so we can stay on schedule, but Dan will be on the line along with some other subject matter experts during open forum if you do think of a question. So next up with some training updates, we have our employer training manager, Kitty Gatchik.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon. While we're continuing our content related to AB 1997 in new file format, I did want to come up and share some high-level overview of our training approach for the 2026-2027 fiscal year and how we intend to offer content and trainings related to the regulations in AB 1997 and the new file format for the fiscal year prior to implementation. Many of you have been asking when we're going to start offering that content, so I want to give you some information about that now. We intend to first have all of our self-guided offerings available in October of this year. So you'll find computer-based trainings and job aids that are updated to reflect AB 1997 regulations available in our Employer Learning Center. They will be available alongside our content that we currently offer today. So you'll be able to get both worlds if you're looking to correct reporting or evaluate membership based on today's regulations. You can still have access to that content. And then you can also view a preview into what the world will look like post implementation of AB 1997 as well. Additionally, we will be offering some training events with some high-level overviews of how the regulations of today's world will be impacted by the new AB 1997 regulations. And that will afford you all the opportunity to ask some more specific questions that we can hopefully incorporate into our future instructor-led offerings that we'll be launching in 2027. We will also be partnering with the employer readiness team to offer some webinars specific to new file format, things like how to build an employment file, which is what we were just speaking about before, and then what information you may need to know about the contribution file itself. Beginning January 2027, all of our instructor-led offerings will shift toward AB 1997 content. So our typical big three, as we refer to them, which is DB membership, credible service, and credible compensation, will all become new versions of those courses. And we'll be strictly teaching our employer type webinars with the AB 1997 content baked into it. So you'll see fully refreshed content effective January 1st, 2027. And then that's what we'll be offering for future offerings for trainings. I do want to provide some more detail. This is just a high-level overview for today, but we will be publishing our training circular, which will offer the exact dates of when these webinars will be offered in early July. And then we'll provide a little bit more detail about the offerings that we will have for the remainder of the year at the next EAC meeting in August. But I did just want to come on and give you some information about what we are working on and a rough idea of timeline and when you can expect those offerings. So just to reiterate, our self-guided offerings for AB 1997 and new file format will be published in October. And then beginning January 1st, we'll be offering our instructor-led content with those refreshed regulations. I'll stay on if there are any questions. Evelyn, you can go ahead and unmute now.
As part of these trainings, will CalSTRS be providing an updated or an actual creditable compensation guide?
Yes, we do currently have the credible compensation reference guide available on our job aid site. Is that the document that you're referring to, or the credible compensation checklist by chance?
I think it's the actual guide, the other one, but I was wondering if there will be an updated one.
I believe there will be, but I can double check and get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All of the credible compensation checklists and the other general job aids, those will absolutely be refreshed, but I'll double check with you on the references specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn.
I saw Mia pop on, so she's probably got something to weigh in on that.
Yes, so I do want to share, we are going to go through and update our employer publications. So that's our circulars, our directives, and then our resources pursuant to 22325. So we won't dive too deeply into those employer resources, but there are specific requirements in the law for when a resource can be effective. We will be working on those documents, but they won't be necessarily with the October update for the other training materials. So training materials and employer publications or resources established pursuant to Education Code 22325 have a different weight or a different process. So we will be publishing those will be made available, but just at different timelines, and we'll be sure to share more at the August EAC.
Thank you.
All right, I see no other questions, and Mia, you're already on the screen here, so Mia Tanoya Hill will move forward with pending work items and secure messaging. I knew it was a mouthful.
Right. Thank you so much. So yes, I am here. If you were at the prior EAC, we did talk a little bit about pending work items and secure messaging. So this is a bit of a refresher with some additional details. Next slide, please. So for anyone who is not as familiar with our pending work items or what we mean when we talk about pending work items, within the Secure Employer website, there is a panel, whether you are a report source or a report unit, that has the pending work items from CalSTRS by request type, the requests that are new, in progress, and the total outstanding. So we'll talk more in detail about the specific types of pending work items. If you're a report unit, you might not have any pending work items if you've already completed those transactions, and you're able to kind of stay up to date depending on the size and complexity of your report unit. For report sources, you will probably almost always have something in your pending work items panel, just by the nature of the request, right? There's usually maybe somebody retiring, refunding somewhere within your report units. So report sources can see all of the pending work items for any of their associated report units. Report units can see their own pending work items, and then you wouldn't see pending work items between report units. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about the different types that we saw. So our first type that I'll mention here are employer reporting requests. These might feel really familiar for most folks. These are requests for information, our request to validate employer suppressed warnings. If you were familiar in the legacy system, that was our employer approved edit review. So same concept, just updated with our new system for the warnings that are associated. And these are also requests to make an adjustment to reporting. So to complete these pending work items, you'll complete the requested actions. That's going to vary by the type of employer reporting request. You'll enter the response, and then you'll submit it back to CalSTRS. So the other types of pending work items you can consider more of a one and done. Employer reporting requests, you'll submit it back to CalSTRS. We might review. There may be discussion, and it may be sent back to you depending on the nature of the request. But let's say the action was completed, there's no further information or adjustment needed. We would review and mark that item as complete. And then once they're completed, you're not going to see them on your pending work item panel. You will always still be able to see that employer reporting request itself if you ever needed to go back to it on the screen within the Secure Employer website. It just won't bog down your pending work item view. I do want to share with folks that we're going to begin reviewing employer suppressed warnings from this year in October. And we are looking still at a percentage, so we're going to be thoughtful in the percentage that we're providing for you to review, even though they're all from this year. And again, your action is going to vary by the request type. But if it's something like an adjustment, those are going to be due within 60 days of them being submitted, and penalties and interest associated should they not be completed within those 60 days. We'll go to our next slide here. Service credit purchase requests. So we recently did a webinar on our service credit purchase requests, and we did update our job aid. But these are requests for an employer to approve related to service credit purchase for FMLA, CFRA, family medical leave, Fulbright leave, maternity, paternity, sabbatical. Currently, these must be completed within 10 days, and we are working on enhancing this to 30 days. If the member did not take leave in the request period, we do ask that you then reject the request. So if they did not take leave at all, sometimes a member might misrecall the time period, or they just didn't take leave with you at that employer, you'll go ahead and reject the request. Again, there is an updated service credit purchase request job aid and a Q&A training document. And you can find that through our links at the Employer Support Portal or directly on our Employer Learning Center. We also have employer certifications of death before retirement. So these are requests to certify the termination and sick leave data for a member who's passed before they've retired. So we ask that you complete that employee change request within 30 days of the member's date of death, or the date that CalSTRS is notified of the member's death, whichever is later. So you'll receive this work item to complete. We know that there are sometimes questions about you as the employer might be notified and you're looking to notify CalSTRS. That is a separate process. So notifying CalSTRS of the death, you would then receive this pending work item. This would not be something that you do proactively. So this is applicable only to defined benefit members. If you've received this request for a cash balance participant, we have identified that as a defect, and that can be voided if you do receive that. And then we've updated the employer certification of death before retirement job aid to reflect this information, again, at employersupport.calstrs.com. Employer certification for disability. We do have our materials available on the Employer Support Portal. So this is a request for information related to a member who has submitted a disability application. There are no nuances here for us today, other than that must be completed within 30 days or the application may be canceled. Unused sick leave requests. So this is a big one. We are in the season for it as members are submitting their retirement and going to retire. You are receiving unused sick leave requests. So this is for sick leave data when a member service retires. This is also only applicable to the defined benefit because unused sick leave is converted to service credit. There's no service credit associated with our cash balance benefit program. We had that question come up a little bit. So you're only going to get these for your defined benefit members when you are eligible to report the sick leave. We ask that these be completed within 30 days of the effective date of the member's service retirement or the date the service retirement application is received, whichever is later. So for unused sick leave requests, even if it's not completed within this time frame, that pending work item, and for many of the other pending work items, they will stay on your panel. So even if it's past the date that we ask that the action be taken, it will remain in your pending work items panel until it's completed. If the member's retirement converted from legacy a pending work item was not created, and you'll have to manually submit the transaction. So in our job aid available on the Employer Support Portal for submitting sick leave data, we do have both processes outlined. So you would either go from the pending work item panel and we know that impacted employers received letters in April regarding this, you may have to submit the transaction manually. So that's just like submitting any other kind of employment transaction, but specific to the unused sick leave request. But traditionally, if something was born in our current system, you would receive the pending work item and you would not traditionally have to do them manually. Termination requests, similar to our unused sick leave requests. So terminations can happen for service retirement, but they can also happen for other reasons. Termination requests can also be done proactively. The system was designed to accept terminations at that point in time. So you can proactively submit a termination. I know this person is no longer working for me, so I'd submit this termination. We weren't requiring those kinds of terminations until our new file format, when you're able to submit those in bulk on our employment file. At this time, we are asking on our pending work items that these transactions be submitted when you're asked to do it, when you receive this pending work item. For refunds, oh, and I apologize, that's an error. For refunds, it is 30 days. I'll have that updated. So refunds is that enhancement was updated to 30 days. That has already gone into effect. So it is 30 days consistently for all termination requests. Your termination request must be submitted before completing your sick leave transaction. So then I want to talk about your sick leave and termination correction transactions. So employers may now submit sick leave and termination correction information when the original data was converted or submitted on an employer certification for death or disability. We did put out a SO announcement about that defect was resolved. Sick leave and termination correction transactions are not pending work items. I do bring them up here today because they're used to correct that previously reported data. So something to keep in mind about sick leave and termination corrections, we're hearing this crop up a little bit more lately. If you want to void something, so if you are looking to void a termination, the termination should not have happened. So we know that that can occur with a member thought that this was going to be their last year teaching, or they put in paperwork that they were going to kind of end their employment with you, but something has now changed and they are no longer going to terminate employment. So when you intend to change that termination information, on your termination correction transaction, there is a box where you can check to void. So that is in our job aid, that is available to you. It is different than the big void button at the top of the screen. So the big void button at the top of the screen says, I don't want to do this transaction anymore. The void checkbox says, I want to remove this data from the system. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, or something has now changed that we don't want that information there. For sick leave corrections, you typically, in almost all cases, do not want to check that box. If you need to update that information, you want to enter all of the new values or just the new value if it's one, and keep the other values consistent. You do not want to check that box. If you check that box when you're trying to update the information, it'll remove it all to 0, and it'll look like sick leave information was not submitted. If you need support with that, of course, reaching out, employer help at CalSTRS.com, or again, highly recommend our job aids that walk through the steps to take to do that. Next, I wanted to talk about our secure message categories. I also talked about this at the last EAC. We had some SO announcements go out, and then we did have a delay until these updates. So we are still working on that enhancement to secure message categories, and the intention is the same: to improve the user experience, to streamline the receipt of those inquiries, to increase visibility, both for CalSTRS staff and for our employers. We've already been making small enhancements along the way, and we do share those updates. We do have a secure messaging manual or manual handout that's available on the employer support portal. But doing this, again, will help us streamline your message to the appropriate area, again, in hopes of improving that user experience. We're going to continue to send secure announcements. So very similar to the last set of secure announcements, when we are confirmed that this enhancement is moving forward, we're going to ask for certain categories that we've previously identified be sent through secure messaging, with the concept that these categories require someone to be a system user to identify or to have originally taken that action. And then we'll continue to message that transition, and we'll share more updates at the August EAC in addition to those SOA announcements. Unrelated to these categories, I have a few other updates for you all. A reminder, this will go later to some of our reminders and some of the information that we will continue to share. We are still unable to process balance adjustments. So if you have put in a request, if that is one of your potentially outstanding inquiries, we are working to resolve that issue. We will continue to share updates as we are able, but we are still unable to process those at this time. We've also been, from a training perspective, been recently made aware of AB 1009 that impacted the credentialing for occupational therapists. We are still evaluating this bill and its impacts and how that relates to creditable service. This would only impact our pre-K through 12 or county office of education. This would not impact occupational therapists at a charter school or at a community college district. We are going to issue an employer directive regarding this information, but we are still doing some evaluation and want to issue that clear guidance. All right. Those are my updates, and I think I see a few hands.
Mia, can I add, we're also going to do, depending on the direction, we might have a couple forums or something scheduled to digest the direction.
Yes.
If there's questions, just so there's not a lengthy delay between when it comes out in EAC, the next EAC, to get credit.
Correct. Yes, thank you, Megan. Yes, we will also pursue training tips forums as applicable. Thank you for adding that. All right, I think Nicole has her hand raised.
Hi, so I just wanted some clarification on the penalties and interest for pending work items. We have one that's an employer reporting request that we have been waiting for direction from CalSTRS for about a month. And we have not received anything back. We've reached out for it via secure messaging and via email through the thread that we already had. Are we going to be accruing penalties and interest when it's not us that the issue is like waiting on? It's you guys?
Nicole, I'd like to take that inquiry and we'll look into the employer reporting request. So we'll take down your information and we'll look into that specifically and provide you a follow-up.
Thank you.
I think the general direction, though, would be that if you do incur penalties and interest for something that you don't think should have been applied, you can always dispute it. And then we do provide information on the background to our folks in financial services who handle those disputes. So if there's a system issue or something like that, or just a delay in getting you the information you need or the assistance to be able to process those, they do take that information from us. But there's no automatic dispute process, in other words.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mia, we're at time for your presentation, but I know there are a lot of hands raised, so I'm going to let you just go ahead and go through them, and then we'll open it up to open forum as well at this point, if that's okay, Mia, because I think a lot of the questions may also be things that might pertain to you. So I can help pull in other subject matter experts, but we'll go ahead and move into open forum and continue with Mia's question and answers for those of you online. We do have kind of a bit of a bevy of subject matter experts behind the scenes today. The last few open forums have been really productive, I think, and they've gone a little bit long, but I think there's been a lot of good discussion. So we do have some folks on the background. So hopefully, my goal is to not have to parking lot things, but if we have to parking lot it to make sure we get you an answer, we will, but we do have some folks we can pull in as needed to hopefully get things answered in the moment for everyone. Thanks, Mia.
I think we can move to the open forum slide as well. James is next.
Hi, my question is in regards to the termination transaction. So obviously, end of the year, we are handling a lot of terminations for retirement. And I'm finding that we have hit a couple of the warning messages 3130, 3106, which is the last compensation date. In looking in the job aid regarding that as well, I think I understand it, but it is kind of confusing where it's talking about if the compensation date is after the requested retirement date, if you submit or suppress the warning, it changes the retirement date on the back end to be 1 day after the compensation date. Do I have that correct?
Yes. So that should
Okay.
be an employer suppressible warning. So sometimes there's confusion or the member ends up working longer than they thought. So we ask that you review that information, ensure that those dates are accurate. But if that is the last compensation date and you suppress that warning, it will adjust the retirement date accordingly.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I provide a little context? Sorry, on top of that.
Mhm.
So this was the process still when we had the express benefit report, but our partners in SR would reach out to you to verify the date, and you would say, yeah, that's the correct date, and then they would go in and manually change the benefit effective date. So it's not something new that we're doing, just now the process is automated. So it prompts you with that warning, and when you suppress it, the date automatically changes. So it's not a new process necessarily, it's just now automated. So the member's never been entitled to a date earlier than the day before their last the day after, sorry, their last compensation date. Just to make that clear, it's not changing anything for the member, just automating the process.
Because I've never been a part of the process, and now with this new system, I'm helping HR because they're no longer obviously doing the express benefit report, and there's a lot of confusion around it. So with that being said, I don't know if there's something that could be a little bit clearer in the language with the line that's on the job aid that says this will affect the benefit payable amount if verified to be the correct last day of work, vacation, or compensated approved leave. Please suppress the warning and continue, because I wasn't too sure exactly what all of that meant. But now that I got confirmation, that's good. I don't see anything in the job aid that shows you how or where to suppress that warning. I do know where it's at in the system, and it was very hard to find. So if you guys could include a screenshot of where to suppress that warning is at, that would be very helpful on that job aid. And then the last piece is there any way that when we're doing those termination request tasks for retirement, that if it's initiated by you guys, that the retirement date that has been requested by the employee can be shown? Because I know a lot of times the people that are handling these requests aren't the people that have been talking to the employee to kind of tell them that they should be picking a date for retirement after their last compensation date, which is usually the end of the month for a majority of all of these, especially within the school system.
So thank you for that question. We are working on an enhancement to make the retirement date visible. So we have heard that feedback. Thank you for bringing that up and for asking that question. Yes, we are working on that enhancement. We are hoping for that very, very soon, and we'll share a SO announcement when that is available. So right now, when you're looking at the membership account, you can see that they're in a pending substatus, pending retirement. But you're not able to see that substatus effective date. The substatus effective date is the retirement date, just another way to word that. But yes, we are working on that enhancement so that you're able to see it. We do ask that employers, not that you would intentionally use the retirement date as the termination date or as those dates if it's not completely accurate to the member situation. But of course, we understand that that is beneficial. And I do want to clarify that the last compensation day, it's the last day that it's not necessarily the last day that the check is issued. or like the payday that they receive it. But if we think about it in terms of our paid versus earned, they earned that compensation typically the last day that they worked or had a compensated approved leave. So just wanted to offer that clarification as well. It's not necessarily when that physical check is issued or direct deposited.
Okay, that makes a big difference then. Okay, because I think that's where we had been getting hung up on that. So I will express that clarification.
We do have some language suggestions going into that same job aid, James, to make that more clear, because there had been some confusion recognizing that the folks that were entering the express benefit report in the past aren't necessarily the folks who are doing those transactions today, and there being a little bit of a learning curve on that. So we're making that a little bit more clear in the job aid as well.
Awesome. So I guess I'll ask one quick follow-up question then. We have two individuals right now that are kind of in this situation, and they're pending their basically retirement date. So I had reached out this morning to ask about how a member would go to change their retirement date, and was sent a new retirement form, a change retirement form. Would it be better to just go in and suppress that warning in the system right now, as opposed to waiting for the employee to fill out that form and send it in? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's going to create a work item for service retirement to have to move their date. And they might get denied because there's certain time periods where they can request to change their date.
Gotcha.
So if they're not entitled to the date they selected, we let them select the date ahead of time, because we don't want your transaction to delay initiating the benefit and there being an interruption in their income. So we let them select the date. And then if the date's wrong, you have the authority to change that with that transaction by suppressing that error. So you can drive that correction for the member. And there'll be a letter that generates on our end that says, you weren't eligible for this retirement date. We moved it to the next date. But we don't want the member to have to do the legwork to adjust that, or send it to us to adjust the date for then you to submit a valid transaction. Your transaction determines their benefit eligibility, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yep, it does. Thank you.
Great questions. Thanks, James, because it's the season for that. So I'm sure a lot of people have the same ones. All right, next up is Myra. And if you guys don't mind sharing also, we kind of get out of the habit of this because a lot of us are familiar with each other, but what employer organization you're from, that will help our folks taking notes who might not be familiar with all of the employers' names. Just kind of note where you're calling from in case we need to follow up. It'll be a little bit easier to find you.
Hello, my name is Miriam from Los Angeles County of Education, the COE. One recommendation or question that we had from districts under our county, they're having quite a turnover right now with new staff in their like HR departments and payroll departments, and a few requests that have come through is if the pending items for their terminations, sick leave, service purchase requests, things that the actual districts have to go in there and do, if they can have a section where they can see how many days they have left to complete the pending item, kind of like the same one that I think one of them does have it. It has like an aging. They said this will help them kind of identify and prioritize which ones they want to do first, especially with their training new stuff. And they're trying to kind of like catch up. And then they're also kind of, because it's been a challenge for them, especially right now with all the retirement requests that they're getting, how they were going from paper to now live updates. So there was a request from a few districts already asking about, is there any way they can put like how many days we have left, something to help them kind of see which one they, kind of do first. Another clarification we were wondering is, I know when we first went live, if they didn't complete certain items by, I think the original day was 15 days, the name will come up again twice or three times, depending on how many. That's no more, right? It's just going to complete just the one name, or would the name come up multiple times?
So I'll speak to both. So on your first ask, we are working on an enhancement to do just that, to add an action required date so that you're able to see that. So we have put in an enhancement request to do that. To your second question, will it create multiple items? It will. So you're seeing that less likely because you're getting to the item sooner, and we've extended the timelines on many of these items so you don't get those duplicates. But for most of our pending work items, so use the termination again. Again, now that that's been extended to 30 days, you're likely just not getting them because of the extension and you're able to get to them. But let's just say it happened 3 times where it was canceled, it came back. You'd still get 3 of those termination requests that you would have to complete 1 and then void the other 2. We are looking at ways to improve and enhance that process, but at this time you would still receive them.
Okay, so like for the ones that they still have like 2 or 3 for the same person, they would have to go find the one where they can add the information, edit it, and then once that one's submitted, go in there and void the other 2. It doesn't go away by itself.
They won't. And
Okay.
yes, yeah, you would, if you would like to see them removed at this time, you would go in and void them. We again are looking at ways to enhance that process to improve that. But if if you want to see your panel clean, and just to make sure that those are taken care of, void would be the option.
Okay. We also had a request in regards to a lot of districts are asking like how soon can they enter. A lot of them don't feel comfortable putting in the termination dates, even though we told them that they can go in there and adjust it in case the employee does leave before, because a lot of the employees are not like the last day is not until June, and so they're still sitting there. So their request, they were asking, well, if we submit it now, which I think I'm noticing something, is do they just remain in the pending item because it's a future date and they still, it doesn't get processed? They can go in there and I know they can go in anytime and edit it, or would they just not fill it out and they can just leave it in their inbox pending until the person?
They can wait to submit them, so your pending item would remain. You'd want to differentiate if that termination is for refund versus service retirement. So service retirement, that should not create a duplicate that your termination is waiting for a service retirement purpose. For like a refunds purpose, again, if the person continues to try to refund, you'll continue to receive them. But hopefully, like the example you're providing, the nature of how you're working with the member is going to look very different, right? Somebody refunding is probably terminating or has already terminated, whereas retirement can be seen out. So the transactions can be submitted. I think the file specification is 365 days in advance, but understandably, you might want to wait a little bit closer to when the person is actually terminating their service, so then the work item would just remain. And it should, when you click that link for the pending work items, sort them by the oldest item first and the newest item last. It should sort by that.
Okay. We'll let them know. And lastly, is there currently right now, I don't think there is, or maybe I missed it, a job aid that tells I think for majority of the part, there's 30 days for everything to get completed, but is there a job aid that tells them how many days for each transaction they have? I know we've had some districts ask us, like, is there something that we can see so they can like write to their management team, like we have this amount of days to complete these items? Is there currently a CalSTRS?
We've been working on an item like that across the different pending work items and then plugging them into the job aids as for each task specific. But yes, we will resume that overall pending work item
so
job
that
aid.
so they'll have all listed, right? Like
yes.
Okay,
got it. In one single.
I can share that we have that in the works. We have a generic one that will cover all the pending work items on one document. And then again, just like Mia mentioned, we are adding the timelines for each specific work item to the associated job aid for completing that work item as well. So you'll get both. I hope to have that published very soon here.
Okay, thank you.
For hopping in, Kitty. Okay, next we have Tracy. Oh, you're very faint. I can barely hear you.
Let me see if I can make this a little louder. If not, I might start screaming. We had a little bit of a random question that came about from one of our districts. Kind of a change of pace here. For the ES 372 form, is the title classified substitute sufficient for the position title, or does the title need to be more specific than that?
We don't actually, the title was a field that employers asked us to leave on the form for their purposes. So we don't validate too much with that title. We're relying on your certification. So if that's kind of, you have a generic title, that a working title that you use as opposed to a formal title, I think that that's acceptable.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, next we have Nicole Steele.
Hi, this is Nicole with CalSTRS COE. So I'm kind of following back up with what Renee was talking about earlier. I understand that you guys have been extremely inundated with inquiries since the new website rolled out, but how long is the average response time right now? We have one of my employees has been waiting on a response to a question since late November. We haven't been able to report this employee's time since late November. And at this point, both the actual teacher as well as my staff have reached out and we haven't heard anything back.
Yeah, so I can share just anecdotally, more than 50% of our inquiries have to do with enrollment issues that are preventing various things. So that's kind of our number one fixes we're looking at, getting all the enrollment stuff cleaned up so we can do those. It requires a lot of manual intervention. And so we have to do that internally, and then we have to send it to technology services, and then technology services sends it to the developer. I don't mean to belabor the excuse or anything like that, but I think right now they're taking about, on average, it's 8 weeks on average, but there's a lot of them that require manual intervention, so it takes longer than that. I have asked the team, we have all those types of fixes centralized on under one area, and so I've asked that area to start following up monthly with employers to let them know a status and any estimated timelines that they may be able to provide. So if they get a timeline from the developer that, hey, this one should be done by this date, that they're relaying that, knowing, of course, things might change. But I've asked them to start doing monthly follow-ups with employers and batching those so you're not getting, a bunch of different emails. But we'll try to be batching those with a monthly update to employers to let them know these are the items that we still have on our plate, and this is the status of those if there's something available.
Okay, yeah, I think communication would be huge because right now it's just kind of silent and we're not entirely sure what to do.
Yeah, I think for us, it's, they're trying to chip away at the ones we have. We are pulling in more staff that we're cross-training on that, and we have several fixes that we're hopefully going in the next couple months that will help us process those more quickly without that manual intervention. So if we can get any of that done with the developer, and hoping that we can get a lot more traction and get through them more quickly. But in the meantime, I'm asking the staff to follow up on the ones that are outstanding. I think they're just, head down on to the next, trying to make progress where they can. But I've asked them to make sure that they're following, reaching back out with you all to make sure that those are still on our plate, still on our radar, and just going through the process, which is taking time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. All right, next we have Lisa.
Hello, Lisa Hotchkiss with Sonoma County Junior College District. I have a question about reporting health benefits for retirees.
Yes, I'm going to let Mia answer that because I think she saw your email.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
So we have identified 2 people who fall into this category who will need to be reported.
If we can actually go back a slide, for time's sake, I think we had skipped the slide, but we'll go back to it. Thank you. So yes, reporting health benefits for retirees. So we have 2 big questions here. So is it paid for the performance of retired member activities? If the health benefits are paid as part of a compensation package for the position, so this person has returned to working after retirement, let's say, just to keep things easy, that they have returned to working in a teaching position, that is the performance of retired member activities. And these health benefits that they're receiving are associated to that return to work.
Correct.
So then it must be reported to CalSTRS as retired member earnings. And we're going to use our assignment code 61 to do that.
Okay, got that. Now, when I'm reporting this, it's being reported as member earnings. I usually have to associate it with the rate of pay. So what would the rate of pay be? Because the health benefit's $1,000 a month.
So you can associate it with the pay rate that's associated to the position that they're working on. They don't accrue service credit for positions reported with AC 61, so it's kind of an arbitrary field. I think with new file format, we might even be removing it. I don't recall perhaps.
Okay,
But,
that makes sense because that was what I was wondering. They're not accruing service credit, so it's really not affecting anything, but I did want to double check.
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
perfect. I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, Mia did have that primed and I moved in the open forum and totally skipped your slide. So we were ready to answer that for you, Lisa.
No problem. Thank you.
And just for everyone here, so if somebody is receiving health benefits based on a prior written agreement, so you offer health benefits as a part of your employer for somebody who has, they've now retired, this was for the service that they did prior to retirement, you would not report that. That question comes up from folks as well. Thank you.
All right, next we have Jennifer.
Hi, this is Jennifer Villafana from Imperial County Office of Education, and my question has to do with the service credit. When I'm doing the viewing, the job aid for viewing the service credit, I'm getting lines that are part of the DBS. Am I supposed to only get the lines that are subject to the DB? Because when I pull for the whole year and I do the calculation, it pulls for more than 1 year. They're getting more than 1 year of service credit. And so that for me, it's kind of like it's hard to be able to provide that information to the employee or to the member. And is there going to be an enhancement to be able to just view the service credit without having to pull any reports and add columns up?
Yes, so we do have an enhancement along with all the other requests. So we're trying to get our enrollments working correctly first, but we do have an enhancement request to allow you to view the account balance summary by fiscal year, so that you can just see like, oh, they were credited 0.95 or what have you for each year. It's a little bit lower priority right now because some of the other fixes that are preventing reporting altogether, but it's definitely on the top of my nice to have list for employer experience and usability. But I don't know if you have a suggestion on the filters and workarounds on how to view that a little bit more easily.
And you're doing this, are you pulling all of the transactions? Are you loading by fiscal year? Are you using that panel?
So what I'm doing is I'm going into what am I doing? I do the load fiscal year, and then I export that. But I'm selecting the CalSTRS defined benefit.
Right.
And then I'm loading by fiscal year, creating a pivot table, and then filtering it by fiscal year, and then a service credit. And what I'm getting is more than 1 year of service credit for some for some years. And those are the years where they have like their salary plus assignment code 55, like we're reporting that. And then there's some years where they're getting 0.99996.
Okay. I'd like to look into that a little bit further, and if there is an update that we can make to the job aid, or if there's something unexpected that you're experiencing, I want to confirm that. So I will take that offline and do a little bit of digging into that issue.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Great. We have a couple minutes left. We do have some questions. I'm going to continue taking them, but before we do that, I want to pivot to our closing reminders in case there are folks on the line that need to leave at 2:30. I'm happy to stay on and continue questions for those of you that do have your hand raised if you're available after 2:30. But if we can move to the next slide. So this is something kind of new Nicole and I will be doing. We'll be doing, we don't have cheeky names for it yet, but we have latest developments and closing reminders. So basically anything that happened since the last EAC that's kind of a big topic, we want to hit on that at the beginning of the meeting before our agenda, just to make sure folks saw announcements, got emails, everyone's in the know. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll kind of talk about things that need to happen or will be happening before the next EAC, so that we don't miss the opportunity to kind of give you those updates since we only meet 4 times a year. So CalSTRS will be closed May 25th in observance of Memorial Day. I don't think that's a surprise to most folks. And then the board will be meeting on the 27th and 28th to approve contribution rates. That's item 15A, I believe. I didn't see the note. Yeah, 15A on the regular board meeting. The attachments aren't there yet, but we'll be sending out a directive and a SO announcement when those rates get approved so that you have that. All the Teachers Retirement Board meetings and agendas are on CalSTRS.com there. And then close of the fiscal year reporting for the 2025-26 reporting data is August 13th. I do want to just put a disclaimer here. I know a lot of you aren't able to report data for certain employees because of different system issues, and we're working on a communication plan on what that will look like for members. I know typically we refer members to their employer about their reporting and your responses. I can't do it. So I don't want to put you in that predicament there with a bunch of members that aren't able to see the reporting on their retirement progress reports. So we are working at on a communication plan to our members on that, kind of figuring out what that looks like. So stay tuned for a little bit more on that. I just want to let you know that's something we're being mindful of. And then the next slide, please. And then upcoming training opportunities. So quick shout out to Kitty and the training team because we did our return to in-person training in March, our Foundations of Employer Reporting. And it's our first in-person training at CalSTRS in 6 years. So just a huge accomplishment that the team had gone back in the field to a lot of places, but it's the first time we were able to host employers back at CalSTRS. So really happy to have folks there. It's definitely a lot more interactive when you don't have the webinar feeling sometimes. So we're doing that again this week, actually. It's tomorrow. And then we have a couple charter school training webinars for our charter school friends on DB service and DB membership on the 28th and 29th. And then charter schools need to submit their, I'm just going to call it the ESO 765 form because it's a bit of a mouthful, by June 30th. If you have questions on that form, go ahead and send them in to us. And then employee change requests for the reduced workload program. So that's no longer a form. That is now an employee change request. You do it in the system. So those are due by the next school term if you have folks that will be participating in reduced workload for the upcoming school year. And then cash balance employers, we need you to create your CV reporting schedules before you can report for the 2026-27 school year. And I know there are some, I think most of the questions on CV reporting schedules are clear, but if there's any questions or communication we can do better around that on workarounds, we're happy to. But I know it's a smaller group of employers, and I think we've figured most of it out with everyone. So with that being said, I'll kick it back. If you need to leave, thank you for attending. We're happy to have you. I feel like we never have enough time, but I'm always happy to stay on the line and keep taking your questions. So I'm just going to continue to go forward with questions until Jonathan tells me he can no longer support us on the tech side. So Evelyn, you have a question. Go ahead when you see your unmute.
Yes, I'm calling from LAUSD. Just quickly for the pending work items, has the issue with only being able to view and export like 200 requests at a time, has that been resolved, or is it on the upcoming list, I guess, of enhancements or fixes?
That one doesn't sound familiar to me, Mia. Do
you? Kitty, I saw you pop on as well. Yep, I'll let you go.
Yes, this is one that we're talking about. I can look a little bit closer at a list to see when it's slated, but we do have an enhancement request out to increase overall in many of the screens there, increase the number of items that you can view from, I think, 200 to 1,000, I hope is the goal that we're having. And we have an enhancement out for that. So I can send you some more details when I look back at the actual request itself.
Okay. Apart from that, we also have an enhancement to do a report for pending work items. So if you can't export it from the screen directly, you can export it to see the totality of pending work items and filter it that way in an Excel document too.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Stephanie.
Hi. You have a question. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we actually have two questions, but the first one is going to be, are we still doing the excess STRS this year, like regular, like every other year?
Yeah,
I
so we'll
heard that it
still
might be
have,
changing.
yeah, our return of excess contributions, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, so that will be happening. It'll happen a little bit later this year than it has in the past. And I believe Financial Services said they estimate that the checks, you would receive the checks more in October this year based on the timing of everything.
And it's both for employer and employee as just like before, or is it? Yeah, that was the other part. Is it going to be exactly the same way that we normally receive everything, and both entities will receive, you know, the refunds? Or
I'm gonna call, I believe so, but soon. I don't know. I don't think there's any changes in the system to how you, because it's in cap, so I don't think anything's different.
Okay. Great.
Correct. Yeah, it should be the exact same process as it's been the last few years. Next year, once AB 1997 goes into effect, so that July 1st, 2027, there will be a slightly different process, but we will give all the information out on that as we start going through the new file format and the training and stuff for all of getting ready for 1997. But yeah, this year it's the exact same process, Stephanie.
Perfect. Thank you. And we just had one more.
One more.
Oh, sure.
Michelle from Santa Cruz County Office of Education, and my question is on reporting sick leave. Is that sick leave only when the person became a member? Because they are accruing as non-members.
It's all sick leave, yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether you're a member or non-member, correct?
Right. It's a position, it's if you were employed to perform credible service and you earn sick leave in that position, yes.
Okay, and then the other question is, if that person was a PERS member, they ended their PERS deployment, you know, got a certificated position, chose STRS, right? Their sick leave where they earned from PERS is no longer creditable, or we cannot report it to PERS for their to add on to service credit. We put that on to STRS?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so if you elect, I know they do the same thing with outgrowth. So it's if you're electing PERS, you're subject to PERS rules. So if PERS won't take something, contributions in excess of a year, sick leave, that sort of thing, it doesn't make it STRSable at that point. Yeah.
Okay, and then is there one other question? Is there a limit to the number of days, hours that you can report to STRS for sick leave? As long and I know that there's excess, but but is it, you know, you can only do up to a year of service credit?
No, there's no cap on service credit, just the distinction between what's excess and basic.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. Hold on, I'm getting a Teams message. Okay, we'll look into that and follow up because I'm not. I might have a different course on that question, but we'll follow up in the notes if there's something different. I'm not entirely sure. All right, Laura Hadley, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I think my question was already answered, but we have a lot of over the cap issues that we're having to remove earnings because they're erroring out and not going through. That's a known issue that you're working on. For retirees are people that are going to retire. We have one gentleman in particular that is going to retire at the end of this month, and we probably haven't reported 5 months of his pay because of over the cap issues. And when we asked STRS about, you know, what do we tell this employee? You know, is his pension going to be incorrect in the beginning? And they said basically they'll send him back to us if he calls STRS. And no communication would be sent out. But you did say that you are working on communication for the employee?
Yeah, so we're working on, what I don't want to have happen is, you know, our kind of generic response when someone asks about reporting is ask your employer because they report the information. We don't know what's accurate or not accurate. I mean, we can look at a line and tell you if we got reporting, we don't know if they should or shouldn't have reported that or if it was the correct amount or not. So that's why a lot of our communications say that. We're partnering more closely with customer service on the different types of over the cap, for an example, having so many PIRs related to that or related to membership and things like that, so that they can give a little bit more guidance to the member on what's going on, so that they're not like automatically referred back to you. So I will tell you the cap issues is kind of my top priority after a lot of these enrollment issues. So we'll figure out kind of what's going on with those and hopefully a timeline on fixes and things, and then what kind of communication we can provide to the members. If a member is eligible for retirement, they could apply for retirement, they could get a benefit off of what you have reported, and then when you're able to get the data in the door, their benefit would adjust and they would get an underpayment if they're underpaid. But obviously that's not ideal. A member wants to be able to retire and understand what their benefit will be and have an accurate estimate. So we're working on the communication around that, but I don't have an answer today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't want to send the member back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
That's just gonna not make them happy.
Yes, we're trying to intercept a lot of those calls as well, because our call center has so many questions on things. So we want to make sure that they're not waiting in line just to be kind of ping-ponged around the organization or between CalSTRS and the employer. So we're definitely trying our best to kind of get that information to the member and having it visible on the member's account as well if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Myra.
Hello again. I totally forgot to ask this earlier. Contribution discrepancies tied to the system defect. Are we to still pay whatever the cap invoices are generating, even though we know they're wrong? For example, on one of the current files that we transmitted a few weeks back, we are being overcharged about $26,000. I've located the person that's tied to it where the reversals, the employer portions are not negative, it's positive, and obviously we don't have any way for us to correct that. So we're getting charged over, we have a variance of $26,000. So now we have to go back to that reporting unit, let them know like, hey, I think we're gonna have to pay this until they fix it. But they're gonna ask questions, well, when are we gonna get our money back? When is this gonna get resolved? So we kind of wanted to make sure that we answer appropriately to each reporting unit that we come across the scenarios is, do we still continue to pay what the invoice generates?
I'm gonna ask that question soon if you are still there, and I don't know if you have an answer to that one.
Hi, I'm one of the supervisor in the contribution unit. To answer your question, you do not need to pay what the invoice is showing. If you think it's not correct, just pay the amount that you think is correct. And if you could send it to our inbox, contribution@calstr.com, and just give us the file numbers or the payroll file numbers. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, so just provide the file numbers for stuff that we may have not catch. This one was just because it was a high number, it was like very noticeable to us. Is the contribution system still going through certain aspects of the system issues and then letting us know at a later point if they find something of refunds that the county will get back? Or
We have to look more into it. So if you can send us an email on this errands, and then we can give you guidance if if that's possible, or I can write down your name and reach out.
I can go ahead and send you an email, and then I'll go ahead and actually provide you the CAD of the account, and then we were able to also identify the fiscal year.
Okay, yes, that would be great, and I will get back to you. Thank you.
Okay, and then just to add to that, and different scenario, certain requests that we're asking, like maybe to back out stuff so that they can fix member accounts. We're noticing that we're coming across like retros lines that we need to back out. A lot of the times the system, we've already encountered 2 times where the system is letting us know like, hey, the line does not match the backup. When we look at it, and it does match to the T. But what I noticed with one that we just transmitted is I had to update the contributions to match the amount after the DBS amount was moved, if that makes sense. So if the original line, let's say, had $30 for contribution, I had to adjust that to 20 so that the system can take that line. so it doesn't create the error. Is that a system issue that you guys are aware of that the system's doing?
I know that there's an issue related to that. I don't know if that particular scenario is attached to that fix. So it sounds like it is. If not, we'll verify and make sure. Sorry,
Okay.
Nicole, it looked like you were saying, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I was nodding my head. I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one." I'm not sure either. We'll definitely have to take that back and make sure and see if that's a scenario. But you're not wrong. We are aware of the retro matching issue. But yeah, that specific scenario, that's a good one. I'll take back. We'll take back.
Do you want us? We also have a specific person.
Yeah,
Do you want
Yeah.
us to send us
Yes,
that?
please.
Okay.
Perfect. That helps. Yeah.
Thank
The
you.
more of those we can tag on it, it helps the developers make sure they're solving all the scenarios in one fix if possible.
Okay. Do you guys prefer to send us to employer help and then the
If
readiness
you can
team,
send it to
or
the advisory committee,
okay?
that way we can get it a little more
It'll
quickly.
get there faster. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, a couple more questions. We have Angelica.
Yes, hi. Angelica Diaz from LAUSD. So I have two questions. I want to just add on to Jennifer, what she was saying about the actual transaction details when they're downloaded. We get a combination of the DBS accounts and the defined benefit. I know that there was an issue. They did say that they were going to fix it, but I believe Mia said that it's something that she has to look into.
Yeah.
Is this, I mean, it was a known issue. So basically what it's doing, it's combining both. When we add the service credit, it's giving us the incorrect service credit for the employees. It makes it very difficult to actually like look at an employee service credit when everything's being combined. So is that going to be like an enhancement?
Yeah, so we'll look into that issue. Our understanding was that it was displaying accurately for employers, but clearly it's not, and that's happening in multiple cases. So yes, we do need to take that back and file a defect with that screen because it should be pulling accurately. So yes, we will take that back as a defect and look more into that.
Yeah, because I had brought that up in the other meetings as well. So I'm kind of surprised that you're saying that it's the first time that you're hearing about this.
So we had some service credit related PIRs resolved or problem incidents resolved, and our understanding was that the issue was resolved. But yes, we will take this back that it appears the issue is not resolved and do some more research into that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I had another question. Well, I believe Evelyn George already asked it regarding the pending items, that it was only downloading 200 as opposed to we have 800 right now pending. We can't download them. So that question has been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Michelle.
Hi, Michelle McCaffrey from Miracosta Community College District. I have a question related to reporting health benefits for retirees. So as I understand it, we're going to use member code 2, assignment code 61, and then are we using pay code 0 and contribution code 0, and then just reporting the amount under earnings of the employer paid benefits?
Mia, I'm not sure if you have a pay code, that level of line. I'm a little rusty on that level of my line details.
Do you mind repeating your question? I'm sorry.
Sure. When we're providing health insurance for STRS retirees who are working. So yes, I'm using member code 2, assignment code 61. Am I using pay code 0 and contribution code 0, and then just reporting the amount that we're paying under earnings?
The amount, yes, the amount that you're paying under earnings. Pay code 0, it's the annual amount that they're receiving. And then contribution code 0 also sounds correct. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we have Nicole Steele.
Hi, Nicole from Calvary COE again. I'm encountering a similar issue where we received an invoice saying that we had underpaid on one of our monthly reports, and like we had a partially paid contribution file. And by all of our accounts, we've looked through everything, and accurate our payment is. And so we'd reached back out. It was someone from the contributions accounting division, but we haven't heard back. Is there someone else we can contact to make sure that this discrepancy is actually taken care of?
Susan, there you are.
Yes, you're here. Hi, Nicole. Yeah, let me look through our inbox and see if I can find your email. We usually address it within 2 days, so I'm not sure, it got lost in the email chain or we reach out to another unit and forgot to respond back. But yeah, I'll look into it and get back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I sent the email back on May 7th.
May 7th. Okay, yes, I'll look into it and reach out if I have further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going to do a last look here. I don't see any other questions. One thing I forgot to share during reminders is that we're actually going to send a short survey to the attendees who participated today. Nicole and I are making, several changes to the meeting, trying to make the meetings hopefully a little bit more beneficial, a little bit more time for dialogue, making sure you're getting information that is helpful and that you're able to provide us the information that can help us improve as well. So if you do have a moment, please take that survey when you do receive the link in your email box. And if you have any questions or ideas for the next meeting will be on August 26th. Please send those to the advisory committee mailbox. One thing to point out, our August and November meeting, our November meeting is November 16th, and these dates are on CalSTRS.com. We weren't able to coordinate with CalPERS for these meetings, and so traditionally we used to host this forum and their kind of version of this meeting on the same day because they were in person, but as we've moved virtual, we've kind of kept that up, but we had a hard time coordinating the dates just with different things going on at each organization. So I hope it's okay that those dates are not the same date now that the meeting is virtual and you're not meeting in person. But if there's a problem with that or that creates an issue, please express that in either the email or the survey so that we know. We definitely want to make things easy on you when coordinating things, but we'd also like a little bit of autonomy to make sure we're providing you information based on when we need to get it to you or when we have something going on, and it's not always able to do that with CalPERS and their schedule and their own commitments, and they have their own agendas as well. I see a hand, Jessica, go ahead. Should see an unmute button there.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Jess here from Marin County. I was wondering if there were any known defects regarding reporting earnings over the pepper cap for this fiscal year. We're just starting to get into it this spring, and we had some lines that were valid on our file that have since been rejected for a reason that I can't figure out.
I believe there are system fixes related to that. Mia, take it away. I don't know. I just pause and let you.
So yes, we have identified system defects related to reporting over the compensation cap and to the IRC limit. We are working on some enhancements to the release notes that are provided to employers to update a few of the workarounds and things available to you. We are also working separately on a communication regarding reporting specifically for the compensation cap and the IRC limit. So we do have something in the works, and yes, there are known defects related to that. If you're experiencing something and are needing support, you can always reach out to employer help at CalSTRS.com so that we have awareness of your specific situation to ensure that it's covered. But yes, there are defects.
Okay, thanks.
Megan, you're muted, so I'm going to jump in. Nancy, it looks like you had your question or your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, it's up, and I unmuted myself. I'm not, really in the realms of things of reporting, but my staff are. So I heard a lot of comments about release notes. Are those release notes, how they're being released?
They're updated on the employer support portal and typically followed. We also share updates to defects via SO announcement. So that employer support portal are where you'll find those most up-to-date resources.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, let me lower my hand.
All right, well, that is all of the questions I see. Again, thank you all for your time. And we will see you back in August. Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.